Hi, can you memorize a book through flip reading? There are a lot of theories about this Sinophone scholar, but today we will unravel the tapestry Mandarin education in the countries of China and Taiwan. Hi, this is Mr. Marjavin Villapiras, and I will be reporting the educational system of China and Taiwan. For this video, we will discuss the Chinese education funding, medium of instruction, years of compulsory education, admission, curriculum, governance, teachers, and assessment, as well as the Taiwanese education's funding support, medium of instruction, years of compulsory education, admission, curriculum, governance, teacher, and assessment. And at the end of this video, we will analyze word problem scenario on Chinese education and Taiwanese education. In this presentation, we shall have here the outline, starting with the funding support down to the assessment for Chinese education. Also, the same would be for the Taiwanese education, from its funding support to its assessment. Without further ado, let us have here the Chinese education. The education system in China is funded by a number of sources. Government appropriation are the major source of funding. Government appropriations are comprised of budgetary and non-budgetary funds, of which budgetary funds are the main component. For the budgetary funds or public expenditures on education, it includes funds from both the education sector and other sectors, while non-budgetary funds include taxes for education levied by local government, educational funds from enterprises, and other funds that belong to government appropriation. Did you know that China spent near 4.3 trillion yuan or $675 billion, or if converted to peso, that's 38 trillion more or less. And mind you that there is an increase of 9.43% from 2016 according to the preliminary statistics provided by the Ministry of Education. Shown on the screen is the figure 1. It is the total education funds and government appropriation for education in China. You could see over here that the trend goes higher as the year passes. So from 2015 to 2014, the educational fund and the government appropriation for education is getting higher. To more understand the funding support of China, here is Figure 2. Figure 2 shows the expenditure on education by source of funding. Most of it, 9.54% is coming from the government appropriation for education, while the others are from the funds invested by private school founders, donations and fundraising, institutional income, and other funds. That simply means that government is so much supportive in terms of education. China's medium of instruction is mostly Mandarin. As you know, they are so loyal and patriotic to their country. However, there are also international schools that uses English and Mandarin as their medium of instruction. Did you know that in China there are 9 years of compulsory education, and yet this is for free? To understand more about the compulsory education, you should know its curriculum. It started with a preschool, followed with a primary education, elementary education, secondary education, higher education or intermediate grade, and the higher education itself. Now, I just want you to pause the video if you have some time and examine the table that is attached on this slide. To know more about it, let's talk about basic education. Basic education is actually having preschool education. Most of the students are ranging from the age of 3 to 5 years old. The students are mostly engaged in activities rather than studying. In primary education, it is under the law on a 9-year compulsory education. Primary schools were to be tuition-free and reasonably located for the convenience of children attending them. Under the education reform, students from poor families received stipends, and state enterprises, institutions, and other sectors of society were encouraged to establish their own school. There are actually compulsory subjects on this one. These are moral education, Chinese language, mathematics, social studies, natural science, physical education, music, arts, and labor services. Going higher into the senior years, which is actually 3 years, we have first the junior secondary, or also known as the middle school education. This consists the last 3 years of 9 years compulsory education. While secondary education, or senior secondary, is also referred to the 3 years high school called as senior middle school education, as from grade 10 to grade 12. There are actually compulsory subjects to this one. These are politics, Chinese language, mathematics, foreign language, history, geography, physics, chemistry, biology, physical education, music, art, and household skills. Moving on to their common higher education. Junior college or senior secondary usually lasts from 2 to 3 years, while bachelor's mostly 4 years. However, 5 years for engineering and medical courses. Their master's degree lasts for 2 to 3 years, and their doctoral degree is for 3 to 4 years. Entering common higher education is not easy in China. This is one of the most fearful days for our basic education students. In China, they have this what we call as Gaokao. Applying to college is about one thing and one thing only. That's the Gaokao. When we say Gaokao, This is the National Higher Education Entrance Examination. Through this, we can determine whether a student will or will not go to college. Gaokao is held at the end of the school year. This particular admission test includes Chinese language, literature, mathematics, and foreign language, mostly English. Not only for students, but also for teachers that we have an admission. You can pause this video and examine the expenditure on education by teachers' qualification in primary and lower secondary education. It is actually through written examination and interview that we may identify that this particular teacher is qualified to become a primary and lower secondary educator. Because of this kind of admission, China do have a very big and high literacy rate. That's a total of 95.1%. That's an average of the males' literacy, which is 97.5%, and their female literacy, which is 92.7%. Who is governing their educational system? The Ministry of Education is the one who governs their educational system. From the Ministry of Education, all of the regulations and instructions will be passed under the Bureau of Education. The Bureau of Education will pass it to the Provincial Education Department, to the Local Education Department, and to each respective institution. The teachers, in terms of teacher education, is actually very meaningful because teacher education in China is already 100 years old. In 1896, the first teacher education institute, Normal School, was found in China. The school offered mathematics, chemistry, and physics. Besides, students also had to learn science education such as botany, mineralogy, geography, and foreign language. In the life of the institute, total 71 students graduated. In 1903, the school was closed. In 1949, after the independence, the normal school were stated once again to meet the needs of the new setup. That time, there were 2 teacher education institutions for educating secondary school teachers. That's for the years 1922 to 1937. Beijing Normal University and Beijing Women's Normal University were opened. Afterward, they adopted the system of teacher education of Russia. Currently, teacher education provided by the universities. There are actually different models for teacher education. First model is the 2+2 model. When I say 2+2, that means the first and second academic year is for subject knowledge courses, while the third and fourth academic year is for teaching skill training. The 2.5 plus 1.5 model is where the first 2.5 years is for emphasizing on subject theory learning, and the last 1.5 years is focused on teaching training. Practical training is actually their key point. Lastly, the 3+1 model. This means that the first to third academic year is for subject knowledge and theory studying, while the fourth academic year is the actual teaching. For postgraduate model, we have 4+2 model. That means the first to fourth academic year is for subject knowledge studying, bachelor of the subject, while the 5th to 6th academic year is for teaching skill training or Master of Education. They also have professional development. They are compelled to do 360 days training in every 5 years. Perhaps our CPD unit are actually inspired from this professional development. The current situation on teacher education is that teachers as a profession is a respectable profession in China. We celebrate Teachers' Day on China every 10th of September. Through the 1993 Act, teachers must be respected by the society, and this law stated that the teachers do have rights and responsibilities as well. You may actually pause this video in able for you to know the requirement in able for you to be entitled for professor, senior teacher, first level teacher, second level teacher, or third level teacher. Lastly, in China, they do have the assessment through oral interviewing and, of course, as you know it, written exams. And that's for Chinese education. Now let's move on for the Taiwanese education. For Taiwanese education, the government is the one who funds their education. Through this, they have compilation and administrative of education in Expenditure Act. The government has demonstrated the importance it attached to educational development. The President announced on January 6, 2016 that some of the amended articles in the Compilation and Administration of Education Expenditures Act, which increased the percentage of funds allotted to education expenditures from 22.5% to 23% of the national budget, which will allow the central government and local government to share this budget. Also, in the near future, the Ministry of Education will continue to formulate educational policies and work with schools and local governments as partners so as to align policies with the practical needs inside the classroom and to ensure the implementation and effectiveness of educational policies and promote the innovation and development of education in Taiwan. In able for you to understand more about their funding support, you may pause this video and examine the figure 6. Shown on figure 6 is the ratio of educational expenditure to GDP of Taiwan. As you know, through the years, they have higher educational expenditure relative to their GDP. Their medium of instruction is actually almost the same with China. We have here Mandarin for most of the schools, and for the international schools, they have Mandarin and English. No wonder that Taiwan is part of China before, because their compulsory education is actually just the same with China. We have their 9 years of education since the year of 1968. Enable for you to understand which are the years in their curriculum that requires compulsory education, we have here the scheme of their curriculum. It started with primary education. Next is the junior high school, followed by the senior secondary school, the undergraduate program, the master's degree, and the doctoral degree. You may pause the video and able for you to examine their current school system. Now let's talk about their curriculum. Their 9 years of compulsory education is from primary to junior education. Their secondary education do have four categories: the general senior high school, the skill-based senior high school, the comprehensive senior high school, and the specialty-based senior high schools. They also have junior college education. In their junior college education, it is divided into two categories: the 5-year junior college programs and the 2-year junior college programs, each with different admission requirements. Junior colleges admit graduates of junior high school into their 5-year program. The 2-year junior college program principally admit graduates of skill-based senior high schools. We also have their universities, tertiary colleges, universities of science and technology, and technical colleges. These offer 4-year bachelor's degree programs and some 2-year bachelor degree program. And of course, what is new in the curriculum of Taiwan is that they have arts education. This is to nurture people with artistic talents, enrich the spiritual lives of Taiwan's people, and raise cultural levels. Arts education in Taiwan comprises professional arts education programs provided by educational institutions, general arts education provided by educational institutions, and arts education for the general public. And the old people do have supplementary education. This is to supplement the general knowledge of the nation's citizens, raise the overall educational level, and teach practical skills, educate sound, healthy citizens, and boost social progress. This continuing education in short-term supplementary learning is provided for people older than school age who have not received 9 years of compulsory education. Enable for you to understand what kind of general subjects do they have, you may pause this video and examine the general subjects in an MOE mandated curriculum. For their admission, for the years 1954 and 1994, they have here the Joint College Entrance Examination, or they call it JCEE. In 1994, they have the General Scholastic Ability Test, or they call that one GSAT. And currently, the students planning to continue their education have actually 3 options: the STARS program, the personal application, and the admission by examination and placement. Enable for you to understand this particular scheme, you may pause the video and examine the admission system for Taiwan's higher education. For their governance, compared to China, this is actually being unraveled and managed by their cabinet member, Executive Yuan. Under it, or under him, we have Ministry of Education, the county and city governments, and the municipalities. As you can see, the Ministry of Education is having the national schools at all levels, national social education organizations, private universities, colleges and junior colleges, and the private senior secondary schools. And you may actually know that the Bureau of Department of Education and the Bureau of Education itself is under the guidance of the Ministry of Education. Now, the teachers in Taiwan do have this what we call as teacher education law. The teacher education law is formulated in order to train and educate qualified teachers for schools at the senior secondary level. Eligible candidates must complete a curriculum that covers general courses, specialty courses, and pedagogy courses, after which they must attend a 6-month practical education training. Following that, if they pass the teacher qualification assessment, they will receive their official certification. Only candidates who have obtained this certification are eligible to participate in the screening held by the local government for teaching position at secondary schools, primary schools, and preschools. The Teachers Act was amended on June 5 of 2009, providing a legal basis for teachers' professional development and on-the-job training mechanisms. The content, methods, division of labor, and incentives for teachers' professional development are clearly written in the Act in order to strengthen their career development, encourage them to continue learning, enhance their teaching quality, and protect the students' right to education. Their assessment includes authentic tests and written examination in line of their MOE's vision to develop talent in every student to nurture their inherent abilities and promote lifelong learning, to their MOE's beliefs, which is taking the initiative, engaging in public, and seeking the common good, and of course, their goals. So that's it. That's the educational system for Taiwan and for China. Now, question: do you support their Teachers Act wherein teachers should take a written test regularly to measure their competence? You may actually turn on your microphone to answer this question. Once again, this is Mr. Margarine Villa Piras, and enjoy the rest of the day.